Hi everyone, good morning, and welcome back to another podcast in quite a while actually. And this is like the first podcast I'm going to do like right after the long summer break. And for today, we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Terry. Not only is he my biology teacher for IB, but he is also the head of science. So let's get to know him a little bit more. Hi, Mr. Terry.
Hi Phoebe, thanks for
How are
having
you,
me.
how are you feeling?
Yeah, a little bit nervous. This is the
Nervous.
first
First
podcast
time.
I've had to do.
Yeah,
So
it's all right.
yeah,
Could you like introduce yourself a little?
yeah. So hi, I'm Gavin Terry, and as Phoebe mentioned, I'm a biology teacher and the head of science here at BISP. I am from the UK, from a little town called Battle in East Sussex on the south
Mm-hmm.
coast in England. And when I finished my studies at school, I went on to university and studied biology. And then I worked in industry for a little bit, a couple of years working for a water utilities company
Mm-hmm.
before going back to uni and doing my teaching
Oh.
qualification and teaching
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of years in the UK before I moved to Thailand. It was meant to
Mm-hmm.
be for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
in Bangkok. I ended up doing 5 years in Bangkok, and I've just
Oh.
finished my fifth year here at BISP
Mm-hmm.
in Phuket. So,
How did you end up coming to VSP from Bangkok?
I think like 5 years was enough in Bangkok. I'm not really a city person.
Oh, like an
Where I'm
island
from is
person.
in the countryside,
Right.
and by by that point, me and my wife just
Mm-hmm.
had a son who was 2 when we moved to Phuket, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just nice to get out of the city
Right.
for
Mm-hmm.
family reasons.
Yeah.
And so then we were looking for where's the best possible school
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
we could go to, and BSP was right at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us a little bit about your role here at VSP?
Yeah, so I am the head of science, but primarily like my day-to-day role, obviously I'm a biology teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm obviously responsible for kind of a lot of the admin work that goes in, and
Right.
in the
Paperwork.
yeah, a
I
lot of
love
paperwork
paperwork.
in the science department.
Yeah.
Our science staff are all amazing, and
Mm-hmm.
they're fantastic to work with,
Right.
and yeah, they make my life
Much
much easier
easier.
than it
Yeah.
could be. Yeah, so I'm really
Mm-hmm.
grateful to them.
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
great to know.
yeah.
And you know how every student has like like a subject that they excel in, but why do you think like students should like focus on like sciences or like learn about science?
What do I think is important?
Yeah.
Why
Why would
take
you?
science?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of have to, right?
Yeah, it's kind of
At
compulsory
IGCSE,
for like
it's a
yeah,
core
but
subject, so you don't get a choice.
yeah.
But having said that, even if you did get a choice, I
Mm-hmm.
think you should still pick science because of
Mm-hmm.
um, loads of the skills, the transferable skills that it offers
Yeah.
that would work well in lots of other subjects and disciplines and future careers. I think having a curiosity about
Mm-hmm.
the world around you is really
Yeah.
important. And we see that curiosity every day in very young students,
Mm-hmm.
and there can be a tendency for it to like fade a little bit
Right.
as we
Yeah.
get older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important we try and
Yeah.
hang on to that. Things like skills like analyzing data,
Mm-hmm.
being a critical thinker. I think that's really important when you
Right.
look at the amount of kind of fake news that's on social
Yeah,
media.
that's
Having
true.
skills
Mm-hmm.
that allow you to kind of make your way
Mm-hmm.
through that and
Yeah.
actually find the truth
Yeah.
when
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of different opinions and voices
Yeah.
out there. I think that's really important. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, loads of skills that will
Right.
just spread out to
Yeah.
lots of disciplines. I think if you've got a science background, I think there's loads of careers that kind of value that. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a scientist working in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
Like your skills will spread into
Right.
loads of other
Yeah.
fields.
And you mentioned you also teach the younger children. So what is like the main difference between like teaching younger children to like IG and like IGCSE or like IB students?
So a science is a kind of spiral curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So we cover the same kinds of topics and
Right.
concepts, but when we're in year 7, we're obviously doing them in smaller chunks, and then we're gradually like building on them as we go like up into year 8, into year 9, through IG into IB. So we cover very similar topics, just not in as much
Just not
depth
as
and
much.
detail. Yeah. So the idea is that you're kind of each year you should be revisiting like a foundation of knowledge and understanding and building on that
Right.
as you go. Um, in terms of the kind of lessons, there's probably a bit more energy in the year seven class. They're a lot more kind of excitable and enthusiastic, and the much simpler things kind of wow them. And especially if you come up from primary, where you've been in just kind of one class most of the day, and you don't have a specialist lab with all the fancy equipment. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, they can get really excited by that, and that's really nice as a teacher, and something we want to try and keep hold of as they get older.
The IB students are like a tough audience. Like when you crack up jokes or something, it's a tough audience.
I don't know, what are my jokes like in class?
They're funny. Yeah, they're funny.
The long silences afterwards don't suggest.
The reactions afterwards, like
no, I like if I had to pick a preferred age group to teach. I like teaching across a range. It's nice to have variation in the day. But if I had to pick, I'd probably go with year 12 and 13, just because I'm very passionate about my subject, and it allows you to really get into a lot more depth and
then
detail.
Show how much you know about it.
And to try and, I suppose, inspire you guys to maybe think about taking it at university. And you've obviously picked it because you did have a choice when you went into IB, which of the sciences in group 4 you picked. So you're kind of there because you've chosen to be there. You must have some interest in it, which is nice. And just the depth and detail you can go into, and especially with IB, a lot of what we learn is kind of at the forefront of our current understanding. So you can get some really like thought-provoking questions coming out of it, and it actually like encourages me to learn more as well. So sometimes there's questions that you can't answer, and I think as teachers that can be a kind of scary feeling sometimes, but it should be a natural feeling because science is constantly changing, and so it's great when students ask you those really tricky questions, and sometimes you have to be honest and say, I'm gonna go and look that up myself. That's a really good question. We'll learn about that together kind of thing.
I think it's really cool. Interesting because we're doing our IAs now, and then we're like exploring questions that we're curious about ourselves, and we're like finding like our own results and stuff. And I feel like that's like the most interesting part about it, like being able to like learn through like your curiosity a bit.
Definitely. I think you can do that more with IB than you could at IG. IG a bit more kind of to the script. You've got
a bit more past paper working.
And there's just so much theory content. It's at some point you just kind of have to get your head down and just kind of learn some facts, whereas and there's no coursework element to it, whereas at IB there are lots of tangents you can kind of go off at, and then you have to do 20% of your grade is based on your IA, so you have to design that investigation. You obviously want to pick something you're interested in, because that's just going to make the whole process much easier.
More fun and easier.
And designing an experiment, collecting the data, writing it up, hopefully getting a good grade.
Also, I think it was kind of hard to schedule with you. You must be like a really busy person with like a packed schedule. So how does like a day in your life look like?
It's pretty busy being a head of faculty. So I wake up quite early, and I like to start the day with a bit of exercise in school first. So
at the gym?
Usually, no, I'm not really a gym goer.
Like a walking person?
No, a running, swimming, cycling kind of person. I get a bit bored in the gym. So I'll start with a swim or a run on campus. And then I'll aim to be sort of at my desk around 7ish. And the day will probably start with kind of checking my emails, replying to emails from colleagues, from students, maybe some parents. I don't have a tutor group, so when registration comes, that's a chance for me to go around and maybe grab a few students out of registration for a chat, see how they're going, if they need extra support, or if they've had some intervention previously, to see how it's going. That's a good chance to do that. And then sort of the main body of the day will mostly revolve around my own lessons. So currently I teach year 10 through to year 13. So I'll have my lessons where I'm with my classes, any free periods will probably be spent like planning future lessons for the coming week, or checking Google Classroom for any assignments. And being a science teacher, you have to be quite organized in advance, because if we're doing practicals, we need to order the equipment. You can't just kind of turn up on the day and expect it to be there. So we have a team of technicians that are fantastic, and we would put our requisitions in for the following week, and then they'll kind of get all of our equipment ready. So maybe a few discussions with them about what I've got planned coming up, keep them in the loop so they know what to do. Then at the end of the day, depending on the day, so sometimes we'll run a CREST club for year 5 through to, well, it goes all the way up to year 13, but it gets a bit more independent beyond year 9. So I'll mostly be working with year 5 to year 9 students with a group of year 12 helpers. Other days there could be meetings going on after school, staff meetings. I also do a kind of science drop-in clinic on a Thursdays for anyone that needs support about any of the sciences. They can drop in, and lots of the other teachers do that as well in the faculty. And then sometimes if I get a chance, if it's not too late, then I'll head over to primary and maybe watch the last bit of my son playing football or swimming, and then take him home. And then when he eventually goes to bed, I'll probably settle down for a couple more hours of work when it's nice and quiet.
Oh my god, your day's packed.
Yeah, well, it's part of the problems. I got this kind of OCD issue when I'm preparing resources. I spend hours on them because I just like them to look a very certain way. Right. So I spend far too much time doing that than I should.
But that's really helpful for the students too. So
hopefully, I hope they appreciate the resources.
Also, you mentioned the CREST Award.
Yes.
Just now for the younger students. Can you explain what it is a bit more?
Yeah, so CREST is an award, an internationally recognised award run by the British Science Association. And it runs for ages from year 3 all the way through to year 13. So there's like different levels of entry. Right. So we have Mr. Little runs the year 3 and year 4 CREST Club. And then I said before, I run the year 5 and up. So they start from years 3 through to about year 8. There's the Star Award and the Superstar Award, and it's all very practical based. So they do little investigations, and they'll start as they get sort of a bit older than year 3 and 4. They'll start to do collecting data and like forming conclusions from their practicals, and they basically have to collect kind of 8 hours of practical work in a little passport book, and then we can submit it to the CREST Association, and they will then be awarded the certificate. Once they're a bit older, it then goes into like bronze, silver, gold awards, and they are aimed at students working. They can work in a group or on their own, but they're actually designing their own experiment, completing it, collecting the data, analyzing it. And it kind of builds up. So bronze, they've got a lot of structure there to help them. There's a workbook that they fill out with kind of guiding questions. So that would be your kind of year 9, year 10 age. And then from year 11 and 12, you could do silver, which if you kind of take the scaffolding away, so they don't have the workbook to go, they've kind of got to develop their own lab report in like a Google Doc or something. And then the gold is gonna be it's very similar to silver, but it's just a kind of extended project. It's meant to take 70 hours, so it's quite a commitment. And last year we had our first ever gold award winner. So we're super proud to have a gold award winner, and I think the gold and all of the other levels, like they look good on university statements and applications, especially if you're going for something that's very really competitive. Gives you maybe a little bit of something extra that other people wouldn't have.
There's a funny story about that actually. So I didn't know she was using toothpaste for one, and then I ran out of toothpaste in my boarding, and I just went like, do you have like an extra toothpaste that you can buy for me? And she was like, oh, I have like a ton. And I went to her room and she had all this different type of like toothpastes in just like a plastic bag, and she's like, oh, I don't need it anymore.
Okay.
So I had no idea what she was like, what she had all those for. But like after I saw like the post about her winning, and I was just like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
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 Just like,
So yeah, you won last year. She got the gold award. She was working on the effectiveness of different tooth whitening products. And yeah, she actually managed to get some actual human teeth from a dentist, and built with the help of DT this contraption that allowed her to brush the teeth, all of the teeth, like at the same time,
so cool.
and sort of fairly they're all getting them the same amount of brushing.
Cool. Yeah.
And then she looked at how much light they kind of reflected to get an idea of how white they were.
That's so cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Also the CREST, I did go yesterday to like the primary building, and I heard they were doing like CREST for like year 1s and 2s. In the primary part, so I volunteered, and they were doing like rainbow experiments, and it was kind of like a chemistry-ish, but they were like young kids, so it was quite challenging to like get them to like sit down and focus. So do you have like any like tips, or should I say tips, like do you have any like methods to like make challenging parts of like science like fun for the kids?
I guess like there are lots of parts of science that can be really challenging, and I think there's two things that work well. The first is if you can link it to something in the real world, which should be nice and easy to do with science. It applies to our everyday lives fairly easily, but sometimes students can lose that connection in class and not realize like why it's important and how it applies. So really making that connection obvious at the start, and hopefully building a bit of interest and curiosity so that they kind of stay engaged. And it's a process, right? You can't get everything straight away. Sometimes you have to kind of stick with it. So then trying to scaffold the lesson in small chunks, I suppose, and then sort of gradually building on the knowledge rather than just going straight in with like the hardest part of it. And I guess a lot of students, the thing they love most about science is when they get to do a practical. So definitely. If there is a relevant practical, then building that in and allowing students to work collaboratively together helps, and sort of teaching each other. You know, when one student has that light bulb moment and they make the connection, they get it, giving them an opportunity to share that with their peers. But I think with practicals, it's important because students love doing practicals, but sometimes you get to the end and they enjoyed it, but they don't really know why did I do the practical. So you got to make sure it's very clear the reason why they did that practical, how it links to the theory, and that should help support them.
And do you personally have any like particular topic that you're most passionate about from like all sciences?
So it depends on which year group I was teaching. So for like you guys in IB, I think I said in class, my favorite topic is to do with evolution and classification. That was just the topics I was most passionate about at university. They were the kind of options I would pick at uni. Like that, so I can go into the depth and detail. For Key Stage 4, at the moment I only teach biology for Key Stage 4, so year 10 and 11. Would probably be enzymes, just because it's nice and practical. Lots of cool practicals you can do with it. So I like enzymes. Then lower down the school, year 7, 8, 9. I'd say biology is probably not my favorite one to teach. I think chemistry is, just because of all the and particular units to do with like reactions, just because all the kind of pops, bangs, the color changes, like
what the children
students love it. So actually I did bring a little practical along.
That is interesting.
I could try and demo something. So I have rehearsed it, and it did work in rehearsal.
Yes, please.
An hour ago. But I'll just bring. I know
like
some people are viewing this, right? But, so I picked a practical that has some audio to go with it. Obviously, if I was just doing something visual, we're on a podcast, it wouldn't be too interesting. But what I have got here is a reaction that I'm going to perform. So actually first I should put my goggles on to be safe.
Yes. This is the first time in a podcast.
And well, hopefully it works.
Yes.
So I've got some hydrochloric acid here, which I'm just adding to a boiling tube. And it is a little bit off-putting with the mic in front, but I'll persevere, and hopefully it will be okay. You can hear me and see me. So this is a reaction between an acid and a metal. So the metal I've got is some magnesium. So I'm gonna drop it into my boiling tube with the hydrochloric acid, and it's gonna react. I'll hold it up so the camera can maybe see it.
This is so cool.
Fizzing. Okay. So it's fizzing away at the bottom. It's releasing a gas, and that gas is called hydrogen. And we'll give it a little bit of time for the gas to collect. So I put an upturned boiling tube over the top to collect the gas as it rises.
I got flashbacks from my IGCSE.
Yeah.
class,
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you remember what the test for hydrogen is? What am I going to do next? Do you know?
Test for hydrogen?
Yeah.
Litmus.
So close.
I'm not a chemistry person.
So I'm gonna
I'm not a chemistry person.
I'm gonna put a flame in
Oh,
the base
see
of
the
the
colours.
upturned. It's an audio one, remember, for the
Oops.
podcast.
Oh, the pop sound.
The pop sound, yeah. So
there
we're
we
gonna
go.
see.
There we go.
There you go,
Redemption.
got it. Yeah. So
Redeemed myself.
Let's see if it's, like I say, it worked before.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna remove the top boiling tube. I'm gonna light a flame and put it in the end.
Okay, there you go.
And I'll maybe move it to the microphone, shall I? See if it works.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, I hope there you go.
There
Yeah,
we go.
a big old squeaky pop. So that is one of the tests that we can do, one of the reactions. So the test for hydrogen, squeaky pop test. Students love it.
Love this.
Yeah, you can imagine like a class full of year sevens.
Yeah, just like all being silent, just waiting to that pop sound.
Yeah, but imagine having 10, 12 groups all doing it at the same time. It's
just
like
fireworks
pops going off around the classroom and just wanting to do it again and again. So that's probably my favorite topic to teach lower down the school. So
thank you, Mr. Terry. That was so cool. I just hope Mr. Wheatley or Miss Davenport doesn't see this video. Or then we gotta cut that part out about the litmus paper. Or can you cut the litmus paper out and just go straight to hydrogen pop sound?
You got there in the end, right?
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it's like a redemption kind of. I'm not a chemistry person. Sorry, Mr. Wheatley.
I take my goggles off now.
Yeah, that was so cool. Thank you, Mr. Terry. Also, I have one last question for you. And you know how our school does have a lot of science competitions? We recently did the Olympiad in class. So can you tell us a little more about what we have in school? Yeah,
so we have got Olympiads for year 10, 12 and 13 in biology and in physics that we try to enter students in for. And that's just a chance for them to kind of showcase their general knowledge in those sciences, and they can then get certificates awarded if they score highly enough. So kind of gold, silver, bronze, highly commended. It's an opportunity for students to get something a bit extra again for thinking about university applications. So yeah, I think that's nice. We've struggled to find something really for chemistry. We are on the lookout for it constantly, but unfortunately there's not these Olympiads that are accessible for international schools at the moment. The ones we do for biology and physics are from the UK, but international schools are allowed to participate. If we were in the UK, we would actually be allowed to, if our students did really well, they could actually form part of the UK team and they go on and compete against other countries. But we can't go that far, but it's just to give students something extra to do. We mentioned the CREST Award already. That's another award that is accessible to to a whole range
Yeah.
of year groups. But we are constantly on the lookout for new opportunities and competitions, particularly going forward. We mentioned chemistry, but also it'd be nice to have something maybe for the Key Stage 3 students, because at the moment it's kind of starts at year 10.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what we offer so far.
That's so insightful. Like the whole conversation, I think, was really insightful. And I think it kind of felt like I was getting to know you a bit more and like a lot more about like the academics here.
Yeah.
So just to take the conversation into like a more lighthearted thing, how long have you been in Phuket again?
5 years.
5 years. Do you have any like recommendations like to go around the place?
Well, a lot of the things I do are sort of
Personalized.
family based.
Right.
Yeah. So always trying to entertain my son, but obviously the Phuket is famed for its beaches. So living in Phuket, I've got a constant stream of friends and family that always want to come and see you, and are very jealous of us like living here. And I think after like the initial few months, you kind of you forget to really appreciate that you're on this like amazing tropical island that people spend thousands of pounds
just to travel
to for like 2 weeks of their year. So yeah, we are really fortunate, and we do need to just take a moment sometimes and not forget to appreciate it. But yeah, the beaches are great.
Yeah, the beaches are amazing.
Yeah, I like to do a lot of cycling, running, swimming. So it's great for training for that.
Do you know there's a really popular place among boarders? Do you know the pizza
mall.
place? Right down like right near 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
People would sign up just for that. Actually,
I go there every week.
Yeah, that's a really
Friday,
popular spot.
I go for a cycle after school, stop off at the pizza place on my way back. Yeah.
Pizza right after cycling.
Yeah, I've earned it. Yeah. You burn the calories off and then you put them back on.
Yeah. And then go again the next day.
Yeah. I often see the borders whenever I go to the mall.
Oh, the mall is
the mall trip seems to be the popular one.
Trip. Yeah. There's no place else.
No, I think that's one of the working on a smallish island. Like everywhere you go, you find someone,
like,
someone that you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. The only reason I asked this is because there are a lot of like prospective families and like students who do watch the podcast. So do you have like any message that you could like give them, or like who are like considering to come to the school?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a fantastic school. When you're a teacher working internationally and you've got children, you can kind of pick, where do you want to get a job, because your children will go to that school. And I think the fact we have a lot of staff with families, young children, that highlights how good they must think the school is, because they're happy with their children going there. And I think there's that balance between the education that's on offer and Phuket as a place to live as well. So that kind of work-life balance is fantastic. In terms of being more science specific and like the support that we can offer to new families and to existing families as well. I think it would be great if I could just like highlight some of the things that are there to support at home. So we've got two great online platforms that we use. First is called Tasamai, which is for year 7 to 11. And it's basically a series of small multiple choice quizzes that students do based on topics within the specific curriculum they're studying. And as students answer more and more quizzes and questions, there's an algorithm working in the background that is working out what their strengths and their weaknesses are. And it will then give them kind of targeted quizzes to help them master particular topics. So no sort of two students have the same learning pathway. No two students are the same, right? So that's really great. And students can use that. It's meant to be used for short periods of time, but more frequently. So it's not about sitting down for hours. We can't learn effectively, after about 45 minutes of work without a break. So it's about doing short chunks. but more frequently, and retrieval of past units. So we've got that. And then we've just got a really cool online digital resource called Cognity for years 10, 11 and 12 currently. And it's sort of first and foremost, it's a digital textbook, an online textbook. So students can take it anywhere with them. It's also got a load of questions and assignments embedded within it. But the feature that I really like is the one that supports students where maybe English is their second, third language. It has this immersive reading function where you can basically translate individual words into hundreds of languages, or you can take the whole page and just translate it all into, there'll be a language that everyone here would be able to find on it. So it's great if students are struggling to access the content. They can maybe read through it first in their first language, then they can flip it back to English and maybe read it again. So really supporting students in that way. And it will also you can hit play and it will have someone speak it to you as well. So that's really cool. When we get a lot of new students join us in year 10, sometimes year 11, and for IGCSE we offer two different pathways currently. So we have the separate sciences, which is where you take the 3 sciences and you get separate IGCSEs in them. So you'd get an IGCSE for biology, one for chemistry, one for physics. The content in that is fairly intense. There's more of it than the second pathway. There's more exams to take. So ideally, students would be kind of at least averaging a C grade, or a bit higher when they're lower down the school. The second pathway is called coordinated science. And that still, we still study all 3 sciences because I think it's important to not restrict your options in the future. But there's a little bit less content, and in the exams you take, all 3 sciences are in the paper, so you don't have as many exams to sit. A little bit less content, but you can still get like A stars and things like that. So you get two IGCSE grades for science, so you'd get like A star, or AA, BB. And that pathway doesn't stop you from going on and doing IB if you score well in it. So it's just 2 different pathways. Sometimes it doesn't have to be like, oh, you're a really bright student, so you have to do separate sciences. Some students will pick coordinated just because they have lots of other things going on in their life. We're a school that has a lot of student athletes, for example, and time can be a factor. So some students may pick coordinated pathway because of their busy schedule.
That's true.
So it just gives a few options, so students and families can pick what works best for them.
Do you have any last final message or any shout outs you want to do?
Well, I should shout out my whole faculty, right? The science faculty.
That's like my
amazing.
whole family.
My family. Yeah, whoever, they might end up watching this. I don't know. Maybe I'll force them to.
Peer pressure.
But a big thank you to the science faculty for all their hard work. And to all the teachers that have taught, do teach, and will teach my son. I hope he behaves well for you.
That's the sweetest shout out I've ever had. And the experiment was really, really cool. I got flashbacks a bit, but this is the first time in a podcast anyone has ever done this, and I think you picked the perfect one for audio, a podcast one.
Yeah,
so
hopefully I'm really glad it worked. I think that would have been the most awkward moment if
it didn't.
It just didn't.
No,
pop.
I would have pretended. I would have made a sound at the back. I would have helped you, but it worked.
Yeah, I'm glad something a bit different. Show you that science is the
fun.
best
It could
subject.
be fun.
It's the best subject.
I think we should use that as the thumbnail for the video.
Yeah,
for sure. Thumbnail. And should we wrap this up? Do you have any other messages?
No, just say thank you very much for having me. And if anyone has watched this and has questions about science, please email me. And if you got questions,
you're gonna have so much more emails to reply in the morning. Then
will I get loads of fan mail?
Fan mails. Maybe chocolate letters.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thank you, Mr. Terry, for coming.
Thank you very much.
This has been great. I think we did cover a lot of the academics here, especially in the science category. And you did show us a really cool experiment, which people watching, especially like the younger audience, would enjoy. So thank you so much for coming and like sharing your input. And thank you to those who've been watching from YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, and a lot of other platforms. I hope I hope you can listen back to yourself or like watch it and you'll be fine. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching and listening. And we'll come back to you with another podcast soon. Bye.
Bye.